All right, I'm going to call the Capital Improvement and Planning Committee meeting to order for Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 7:32 p.m. And we have 4 out of our 5 voting members present. First order of business is approval of outstanding meeting minutes. So there were 2 sets that were presented last time. We had some comments. I put some edits into them directly. More I'd call it procedural in terms of what's required by open meeting law. Nothing, I would say, substantive in terms of the content. There's a few small items that I think we need to go back and just watch the tape on who seconded each motion. But at least in my opinion, I think we're ready to vote and approve them. But um, I don't know if anyone has any other comments on those 2 sets of minutes.
I do not. Mike, you're on mute.
Yes, sorry. I was having someone fetch my glasses for me. Are we voting to approve the minutes? I'm sorry.
Well,
Yes.
I haven't
All
made a
right.
motion yet, but I just want to make sure no one has any other comments before I
No.
do that. Okay. Then I'm going to move that we approve the uh, October 6th and hang on, I lost the date here. October 20th meeting minutes with the edits subject to filling in the gaps of the seconds in the motion. Is there a second?
S-
Second.
Any further discussion? All right. Roll call vote. Mike S.
Aye.
Mike N.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
And I am I as well. All right. With that, we will go to Chief Newells. Let me bring him over.
Hello,
Hi,
everyone.
Chief. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hope
Thanks for
everyone had a
joining
great
us.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, same to you.
Thanks.
We'll try to get you home in time for the game is our
Thank you.
objective. And I know our DPW superintendent is anxiously awaiting, I'm sure, as well. So thank you for your capital submission. I know you and I had an opportunity to quickly chat about it in advance of you submitting. I know there's some things that are a little different this year for those of us that have been on Capital for a few years, and then you have at least 2 members that have not sat through kind of a full capital process at this point. So
Sure.
what I've been doing for each department head is just giving them the opportunity to provide any summaries or any additional information that you want us to consider. But the committee does have your email and your forms that you submitted.
Okay. Do you want me to just start to kind
Yeah,
of
go ahead.
go through
Yeah,
it?
go right ahead. Then we'll ask questions.
Okay. So this year for the FY27, we submitted a request for some non-vehicle items in some vehicles. We looked at the red dots. So I figured I'd start like an overall. We were requesting red dots, some firearms, some portables, and some vehicles. And a lot of this has to do with the new bodies that were approved at town meeting. That in previous capital meetings we didn't have the opportunity to plan for because we didn't know how many we were getting in the final count. So for the first request, it was for 8 red dots. They're a sight unit that goes on top of our firearms that our officers carry. And what a red dot is, they're actually called, it's Trigicon RMR Type 2 LED red dots, and they're fixed on our officers' firearms. And what they do is on a lens on the firearm, they project a red dot on the target, which is faster acquisition because your eyes can adjust and see the target at the same time, and the red dot is superimposed on the target itself. You keep both eyes open so you have peripheral vision and you have depth perception. It's better in stress types of situations because you're not trying to line up sights with your rear sights, your front sights, and the target. So it's really a safety precaution for our officers and the public. If for some awful, God forbid, reason that our officers did have to fire their weapons in protection of life or property. These red dots, they have a battery that lasts for years. They have an LED screen and they have uh, a brightness adjustment to them as well. They're kind of expensive, and that's why we're coming to Capitol this year because we're trying to outfit all of them, all of our firearms with them, and additional bodies with them, as well as some of our spare guns that we have, or we're trying to acquire for if for some reason a gun is damaged or if there was ever a shooting, the state police comes in and seizes firearms, and then you don't see them for months, sometimes longer. But for that particular item, that is the reason why we're asking for 8 of them, and the request was for 5,000 to cover for those 8. Does anybody have any questions about the red dot at all? Okay, great. And then we were asking for 3 additional firearms, again, largely in part with the new bodies that we have. And the estimate includes 3 fully outfitted firearms. That would include everything that we need, red dots, the flashlights, things that our standard weapon come as a safety precaution. I don't know really further on that. It was for 5,000, and that's what 3 Glocks fully outfitted would come to for a price. Does anybody have questions on the Glock?
Kind of. Just one quick one.
Yes.
If someone were to leave, do they get repurposed with someone new that comes in, or do they have to
Yes.
sit? Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yep. Anybody else? Is that okay? The portable radios, we need 2 additional portable radios for the bodies, and as you know, they're very expensive. We were able to join the fire department and get a joint order for the last set that we had, and that worked out well because it was a discount. But as of right now, we need 2 additional on our own that would cost about $21,500. And so the portables are great. I can tell you some of the stuff they do. I mean, just they're state of the art digital portables. So there's clear communication. There's cuts down on feedback. They're rugged. They're military grade. They can take physical abuse, weather abuse. And their estimated lifespan is about 10 years. So just purchasing them will give us a 10-year bump out. So which would be great. Anybody have any questions about the portables at all? Okay, great. And then we were requesting the vehicles. So we were requesting to purchase 2 frontline vehicles and 2 Bronco Sports. And I'll explain into that. We need 2 frontline vehicles for patrol. We're going to be cycling out. We're going to be returning 3 vehicles, and those vehicles, I just got some updated mileages on them today. I submitted the capital a while back, but one vehicle is at 121,000. The other vehicle is at 110,000, and the other vehicle is at 130,000. These, when they're getting up to that point in time, they need a lot of work. They're always going into the shop. Colby's great at the DPW, helps us out as much as he can, but every time they're in the shop, we're down cruisers and we don't have enough for patrol. And then even if we use other vehicles in our fleet, we're adding more mileages to those vehicles. So it's a constant cycle of using the vehicles and adding the miles and not having spares. So for the Broncos, I can talk about the Broncos. The reason why we're looking at the Broncos is because they're very cheap. It's an admin car. One would go to our detective, which would cycle out one of the 100,000 vehicles that I talked about earlier. And it doesn't need to be fully outfitted like our frontline cruisers do. The detective, the estimate that we had was like 37,000, but with the upfitting, that the small amount of upfitting that it would need to be about 40,000. And that includes all the cabinetry, the storage for evidence, crime scene equipment, or anything like that would go into that Bronco. And the other Bronco would be for the second lieutenant that we have here. And the reason why we included it in this is my senior lieutenant has his own vehicle. He can take it home. He can respond from work. Luckily, he lives in town, so there's hardly any mileage or anything on the Bronco itself. I mean, on the car he has itself. And the same thing with this second lieutenant, Mike Whalen. He lives in a neighboring town. And there are instances where he is made acting chief. If I'm away, if myself and lieutenant are at training, if he's on call, and there's times that he would have to respond in place to an emergency in Southborough. And again, it doesn't need the same amount of upfitting as our frontline cruisers, so the cost is lower. And it's basically with these two Broncos, one for the detective, one for the lieutenant, it's the same price as a frontline cruiser in our mind. So with that, we're turning in 3 and we're getting 4, but it's basically the cost of 3. That's the kind of the way we're looking at it. And the frontline cruises are, again, to replace cruises that are up there well over 100,000 miles. They're in the shop. And then when one or if 2 go in the shop, at one point we had 3 that had to go in the shop, and we were in really rough shape. We have a smaller fleet, but our officers are running these cars around the clock. Shifts, doubles, back to back to back to back. So it's adding a lot of mileage to these cruisers. And there's differences in prices. The gas powered frontline cruisers are a lot cheaper. And the hybrids are a little bit more. They're about a little bit over $2,000 more. And I talked to John Parent. This is another year where they're extending the green community requirements on the town so that we wouldn't have to get a hybrid. We have one hybrid and it's been in the shop consistently. I've talked about it at our last capital meeting. Hybrids, I've talked to other chiefs. They're not made to operate round the clock. And Ford has even admitted this, but they won't put it in writing. But it's a constant use, and it does a wear and tear on the hybrid model. So for us, we continue to rely on the gas powered vehicles. They're consistent, and they're never giving us a problem for patrol purposes. And that's where we're at for that. Trying to think. And does anybody have any questions? I'm sure there's maybe some questions. You're on mute, Jason.
I was going to say I have a few on the cruisers just based on past history, but
Okay.
anyone else have any first?
Not for me.
So Chief, if you got the 4 vehicles, the 2 Broncos and the 2 frontline cruisers this year, what does your capital plan look like for vehicles after this year?
We should be in pretty good shape.
But what number would you be coming to us for next year?
I mean, we have a standard 2, but it's possible that, it may be 1. I don't know if we're going to have a time when we don't need any because, like I said, we have a very active crew. I don't know if you've seen our stats recently, but these officers are up, 75, 80% in citations and arrests and OUIs. We have a very young crew that they're very active out there. So our cruisers are it's good for the public because it's a safety purpose, but our cruisers are getting a lot more use than they have in the past. So I would be hesitant to say that we wouldn't need anything for next year.
I guess I was saying, is 2 still the norm in general,
Yeah.
on average?
I would
You're not
say,
going to go up to three in perpetuity,
I'm
or
sorry, I cut you off on that.
like what is, I guess I'm not suggesting we'd ever go back to a 0 year,
Yeah.
especially given what the town has supported in personnel increases. I guess I'm just trying to understand is are we getting closer to a normal of three a year, rather than two? We've been carrying two for probably the last 4 to 5 years at this point.
Yeah. I mean, we are one of those businesses, departments that operate consistently. So I would say, I mean, we have had it at two. I think we're okay to keep it at two for now. But I say that hesitantly because I could have an issue next year. I hope not to, but I will point out, we have applied for every grant under the sun, and we do have a lot of fees. Our FY25, just from the use of our cruisers, whether it was third-party details paying cruiser fees or anything like that, we've brought in last year was $234,000. So these vehicles are kind of paying for themselves in the long run. Um, so yeah, so
So,
leave it at that.
so how many vehicles does the department have in total?
So we have 14 total, but that includes myself, the detective, the lieutenant. There's two detail cars that basically there are older cars only used for details,
Okay.
that type of thing. We had an Eversource detail that basically operated for about 4 months, where we had to have four. I'm sure you've all passed it on the highway. We had to have about four cruisers on Route 9, idling. So, what I read you for mileage, I mean, for engine hours just from idling, they're up there a lot more.
Yeah.
So,
So I saw in one of the forms that for the vehicles that the lifespan was estimated at 8 years.
yeah,
So for just by basic math, I'm a simple math guy.
yep,
Basic math, 14 cars at 8 years is roughly two a year. But so that's the principle of we think two for a while, but
yeah,
maybe three here and there.
yeah. There'd be occasions where, three would be warranted, if we include personnel. Again, there's a lot of things that we want to do here. The traffic unit, separating out two detectives. We have our SRO separated out, but we don't have a cruiser for him. So there's some things that I feel like we're lacking from other departments that we could have some if we were able to do that. So
Okay.
Um, sort of a follow-up question because it always comes up at some point during our conversation. For your second lieutenant's vehicle, is that a permanent take-home vehicle or only going to be when the lieutenant's on call?
I'd say when the lieutenant's on call. Well,
Okay.
to be honest, I haven't looked at that part of it because that hasn't even been approved by the select board yet. Because the first lieutenant was approved by the select board as a take-home car. He was in town, but with the second lieutenant only being literally the neighboring town, um, uh, I look at it as like Westboro from sergeants up to the chief, everybody has a take-home car. And I think that, if you're going to be responding from home in an emergency, or if the other lieutenant can't be reached, I think it only makes sense to have a permanent take-home car. So,
I only ask just because it impacts the mileage, right? Like regardless of where obviously if they live further away, but there's just natural driving around too, right?
right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, for the lieutenants, their work is administrative. Sometimes, they will go around town or they'll have to, but for the most part, it's to and from, and then the occasional drive through town. So it's not getting a ton of wear and tear. Their vehicles will probably last a lot longer, um, but that's where we're at.
any other questions for the chief?
All set.
And for me.
Um, Mark, this is more directed at you and the select board. Uh, I guess my overall concern here continues to be that we added personnel in a vacuum without thinking about the capital costs now. And this came up last year with Chief Puntini, right when he was going with the for the deputy chief, right? There was obviously a vehicle involved there as well. I think this would probably come back to whatever policies came back from DOR on their review. But I think if we're going to be adding positions in the future, we need to be thinking about the total cost because now we're kind of doing this in arrears as opposed to, if these positions are permanent, right, then we should be whatever the total cost to create the position should be what's presented at the time.
Nope, I agree.
Because it's kind of hard to ignore some of these costs now when you already have the people there and they clearly need this equipment to function as a sworn officer.
And I will just add to that, they're needed, those positions are needed within our department, meaning we had to have them and we're a better functioning department with them. So, but I understand what you're saying too.
Yeah, it's tough to operate, the way we're supposed to operate as capital. It's kind of we're the tail chasing everything else as opposed to thinking about it holistically. Any other comments or questions for the chief? Chief, we're not going to make any decisions tonight. We got to see where some of the other larger items land. But I think what we've been committing to each department head is to the extent we're not going to support something or it's trending that way, we will certainly invite you back for a conversation and hear whatever rationale is going forward. We will likely meet with the select board in the next probably early January, it seems like at this point, just to present where we're at. And then obviously there's a larger budget question that even if this group is supportive, again, in a silo, there's a broader conversation that needs to occur in terms of layering on operating budgets that may then come back to impact some of the capital. But you've been through this enough with us at this point. So that's what we're going to do in terms of process, and we'll keep you posted on that.
Okay.
Any final questions for the chief?
All set for now.
No, I appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, chief. Have a great night.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Jason, did you want to talk about the 10-year plan yet? Or do you want to?
Only if there's anything you want to highlight there of items of concern. Otherwise, we kind of take it under advisement, track it, and um, bring it forward when it's ready.
Okay, I can also send you some of the information and then maybe share with everybody. So,
Yeah, that would probably be good for us to digest kind of when we're not focused on the
yeah,
1 to 2 year plan. But yeah,
yeah,
anything you have, we'll gladly take.
yeah. Some of the grants we received were able to take a lot of items off of our future capital requests, like fingerprint machine and body worn cameras, and we got a lot of grants to cover all those costs. So, we're going to continue. We just got 7 new tough books, new computers for our cruisers. So from a grant. So I've been trying to CC you on the grant awards, just so you're aware of it as well as things we don't have to worry about in the future. So
We appreciate everyone
Yeah.
that's contributing to that.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a
Have
good
a good
night.
night, everybody.
Good night.
All right. As we shift to DPW, I'm bringing Bill over currently.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Bill. How are you?
So,
Good, good. Um, so how do you want to run this? You want me to just run through things?
So you kind of heard how the chief just ran through his, but we acknowledge yours is a multiplier effect of that in terms of numbers and number of items. I think the first thing I want to do is just draw everyone's attention to Bill did make some updates this afternoon to his capital plan. I asked him to highlight what he updated, given you all had a document that you had from a preparation perspective. That I just forwarded as the meeting was starting. So, Bill, I don't know if you want to have anything on the screen or you want to read off your sheet, but
No,
he gave you the numbers.
I'm happy to share. My
Okay.
screens, I think it'd be easier for people to see what I'm talking about.
All right. So here we go. I will allow you that, and you should be able to do that whenever you're ready.
All right. Okay, can you see my spreadsheet?
It's there we go. We got it.
Okay, super. So, as we do every year, we have different kind of chunks of requests, and I do want to preface what I'm going to say today with I recognize that funding is limited. I recognize that as the capital committee, you're measuring competing requests one against the other. Nonetheless, I would not feel like I was doing my due diligence if I didn't submit the items that I've been submitting to you, Jason, and committee. So, with that said, I break the request into chunks. One chunk is vehicle requests, and then another chunk has to do with highway work. And then a final chunk might be, I'm sorry, water is a third chunk. And then miscellaneous items would be the final chunk. So starting with that, our normal routine for requesting vehicles, these have been on our list for a while. And as you know, we've had a plan that's laid out for, 15 years out for rotating vehicles so that we fairly have a fairly consistent request annually to the extent that we can. So this year we have two requests to replace two larger vehicles. And this is the cab and chassis, actually, for two vehicles. They're both $262,425. We've had these on our list for a while, and it's just coming due that they're ready to rotate out and be replaced. Um, Likewise, we have our ground service dump truck. That's going to be shared between DPW and cemetery because some of it is used at the cemetery. Again, this is I'll tell you this vehicle should be in parentheses, but it's not. Um, 2009. So this is on the rotation and is due to be replaced. Lastly, you may have seen when you go up to the transfer station, the John Deere Gator vehicle. It's almost like a golf cart that drives around, electric vehicle. And that is due for replacement. So that's on our list. I'll continue down with the highway department requests. We have a rotary mobile column vehicle lift system that the mechanic is requesting. Currently, we do have vehicle lifts, but they are not functioning. The plan is to remove those and replace them with a mobile system that can allow movement and clearing out of the bay as needed. So those are $60,000 for that item. Tire changing machine. This is somewhat of a police and highway shared request because of the number of miles that the police put on. The chief agrees. It's all in this budget, but it's really a shared request. Tire changer machine that we currently do not have, and this is something that we badly need. Um, that being said, I don't know if you want to talk about these in the chunks that I present them, or if you
Yeah,
want to.
format's yours. I mean, the format made sense to me. So unless anyone disagrees.
Okay, so why don't we just address any questions on these vehicle requests and a couple of the equipment items, if anybody has questions.
Yeah, Bill, just around the equipment itself, do you have like numbers of hours used? Do you guys track that level of detail or no? Kind of rough order of magnitude, and then what a life is on a vehicle that size?
We don't currently. We do basically what industry norms are. We we this past year we did acquire a software that the mechanic is using to start tracking these items individually. So we'll have a better idea in the coming years on that.
From a repair standpoint, do you notice that they're going in for more repairs than not? Or is it kind of it seems like could you get by for next year or two? I'm just asking the question, playing devil's advocate.
We could. I know it's something that the mechanic was not comfortable requesting unless he needed it. So for example, those lifts, they're just not functioning. So he needs the lift to get under the vehicles. So that, in my opinion, is a priority. The tire changer, we do a large volume of tire changes. We have been doing it, making do with the way they do it now. This would be an add-on. So and it's small dollars for that item.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other vehicle related questions?
Yeah, can you just give me did you like what the fleet looks like as like these 35,000 GVW vehicles, like how many of those do we have in total? I don't know what the whole DPW vehicle fleet looks like in terms of numbers and
I don't have
right.
the master list with me, but I can email that out to everybody.
That's fine. Do you have like it's just a ballpark of like what also like what are those vehicles used for and what do they look like? I don't know what that
Those are the
looks
large
like.
large plow slash dump trucks that you
Okay.
see driving down the road, and we probably have about 5 or 6 of those.
Okay. Gotcha.
And obviously during the winter months, they're critical. Um,
Yeah. So this is just to these line items are just to replace the cab and chassis. Is that
that's correct. That's not the whole vehicle. That's just the cabin chassis.
is that like the dumping mat? What does that leave besides the cab and ch
That leaves the engine and
engine?
the basically the guts of the vehicle.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I'm not seeing any on vehicles, so keep going.
Okay, I'll continue on. I'm going to start up here now. This is the big nut that we're requesting this year. As you know, we did a pavement management plan a year ago. This is the first step in implementing that plan. Um, just to give you a brief overview of what we've done. And I'm going to go to the select board over the next number of months prior to town meeting to kind of lay out the plan as we finalize it and it starts taking shape. But our road network is scored on a scale of 0 to 100, where 0 is the worst and 100 is the best. Basically, a newly paved road should be at 100 theoretically. Our overall, we have about 70 miles of road in town that they've rated and scored. Um, and our overall average score is a 72.4. The score is something that's going to tell you the level of effort that's required to repair the road. So, for example, 90 to 100, that's no maintenance required. 80 to 92 is routine maintenance, your crack sealing, your fog sealing, your micro sealing. Third category is preventative maintenance. That's a score of 70 to 80. And that is, we've got 16 miles of road that require preventative maintenance. That's basically mill and overlay. So it's a little more robust of an effort to get that road rating back up to 100. And then lastly, we have, well, 2 categories: minor rehab, which is 50 to 70, and then major rehab, which is 0 to 50. Give you an idea, major rehab category, we have about 10 miles of roads that fall into that category. Minor rehab, we have about 20 miles of road. So those are the heavy cost items. We just to give you an idea of cost for reconstructing a road, we just did Pine Hill Road, almost a mile, and that's going to be about $700,000. So just to give you an idea, and that's just the paving. Many of these roads, when we go out there and we do our assessment, we're going to look at the infrastructure, the water lines, the which would not be paid for highway, that'd be paid underwater. But we're going to look at the water line condition. We're going to look at the drainage system conditions. And if those other things need to get reconstructed as part of the project, obviously that cost goes up. Pine Hill Road hardly had any drainage or any infrastructure. So that $700,000 per mile is probably on the low end if you're dealing with infrastructure. Um, so, so the theory is that we have according to the report we have about 14 million based of $14 million worth of backlog to get our roads improved to a passable level. And in order to meet that, the plan is to peck away at it over the next number of years. I laid out 5 years. That may change. It may be four, it may be six. And every year we're going to do our assessment on the next year's roads. So we'll have a good idea as to the cost as we proceed with the improvements. So right now, the number I have is 3 to 5 million. As we approach town meeting, we'll get that a little closer. I would say for the purposes of our planning this year, we should plan on probably 5 million, and then if you had to have a firm number, and then as we get closer to town meeting, we would adjust that as necessary. Um, so that's pretty much that in a nutshell. The idea is we get the roads improved to a decent standard. Then Chapter 90 should be adequate for the routine maintenance costs. The routine maintenance costs, the crack sealing, fog sealing, microsurfacing of roadways is much less expensive than reconstruction. So the Chapter 90 dollars would go farther if we kept those roads in better shape. That's the theory. We do more roads per year with Chapter 90 if the roads are in better shape.
If if you get a road up to, the 90 and 100 level, how long do those last before what's the lifespan of a well-constructed road?
It would be about 30 to 40 years is
Okay.
if you did no treatment to it. If it's
Yeah.
constructed properly. Part of the issue that I see is, some of our roads, particularly the subdivision roads, don't have adequate thickness for pavement. That's one of the things I'm working with the planning board on is getting thicker roads, thicker pavement, making sure that we're testing the compaction of the soils as well as the pavement to make sure we're getting what we expect we're getting for public ways.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know the answer to this question. Does our insurance get affected if our road quality is too low?
Not our road quality. It would get affected if we have repeated claims, and we do get a number of claims every year for pothole damage as a result of some of the conditions of the roads. So I would imagine that does have an impact on our insurance. Other infrastructure, water mains, I know overall the town's rating for insurance would get improved with better quality infrastructure.
Do you ever review the road claims that come through, or is that
Everyone,
you do? Okay.
yes.
Bill,
Yeah, I have to write a little summary for our insurer.
Uh,
the 5 years you quoted, is that to spend the 3 to 5 million, or is that the 5 years is there's going to be a second tranche of debt to get to that 14 million cost that you referenced?
Yes, I envision this to be 3 to 5 millions per year for 5 years.
Got it. And Mark, I know obviously it's probably a broader conversation with advisory and the select board, but assume this would be a bonding item each year.
Yeah, that would make sense, Jason.
Got it. Okay.
The pavement management plan has been distributed as part of my submittal to the capital committee, if you wanted to look at it. Uh,
Well, I have one last question on the improvements project. Do you have a list based on how you want to organize them going down? Like we have to deal with these, and then it will kind of guide. All right, I know we want to get as much as we can done on the first half, but realistically, looking at the rating of each of those different roads, do you have that?
we don't have them ranked in order of priority. We have them categorized into the worst to the best. So, for example, some of our subdivision roads score very low, and the volume of traffic on those roads may not make it the priority when you measure it against a different road that maybe didn't score as poorly, but certainly has more vehicles per day going over it.
Exactly. Okay. It'd be good if we had that.
That's something I'm going to work on annually for the next 5 years.
Okay.
So this submittal, I'm targeting 3 to 5 million for a group of roads. An assessment will be done. We're going to take into account, is there subsurface infrastructure that has to get replaced? We're going to try this year, we're going to try and get the low hanging fruit that's not as complicated. We'll also in tandem work with the engineer for probably next year's request, which would probably include some more significant improvements, including drainage and perhaps water.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Yeah. That 14 million number in the report, don't be fooled by it. It does not include guardrails. It doesn't include sidewalks. It doesn't include all those peripheral things. This is strictly pavement in that report. Okay. Just so you're clear on that.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, I have a comment, well, two comments, I guess, and an observation. So first of all, this is a great spreadsheet, and you present this in a very nice way. So thank you. Um, it might be helpful to and I don't know how to structure it, but like if we knew how much was spent on the roads and how much was spent on vehicles in 26 and in 25, just to kind of see the arc of spending. I don't know if others might find that helpful or others in town or the select board or whatever, but just to have the context of what we've actually been spending over the last few years and then look at this, also might be helpful. So just an observation.
Sure. I know Karen had a tracking for the historic needs, and I've only been here a couple of years, so I can certainly tack that on to her information and share that. Okay. Um, so next we have sidewalk construction plan. As you may know, the select board approved the design of a number of sidewalks in town, including portion of Parkerville Road between Middle and Finn School, Richards Road between Corderville and Woodland, Woodland Road between Richards and Orchard, and Oak Hill Road from the existing sidewalk to Walnut. So because we did that, it just makes sense to take the next logical step and submit a request for the funding to construct that. Doesn't make sense to design it and put it on the shelf. So that's this number you see here. In the document I provided to the committee, I do have the individual sidewalks broken out separately. So if you wanted to shrink it or change the scope, that data is there. Northborough Road. So if you're going towards Northborough, obviously, you go over the railroad tracks and then you go past Jericho Hill and you cross a stream there. You may notice that there's a steel plate and or a barrel located there because we have another sinkhole. This has been going on the same timing as Willow, but it wasn't the priority when measuring against Willow Street. So we got design for this nearly complete. It'll be ready for construction next year. with bid documents. This is the cost of the replacement for the culvert. And in my opinion, if you look at the photos that I had in the application that I submitted to the committee, you will have seen that the condition of the pipe is completely gone in the bottom. So the pipe is going to have a catastrophic failure. It's just, and it's begun. It's just a matter of time. So that's that project. If anybody has any questions on that.
So to be clear, this is not the same culvert that came before the town meeting prior to you joining town, the town on Northborough Road. This is a separate section of Northborough Road.
That is correct. So the stretch that was done before I started working here is between Main Street and Johnson Road. So that is 100% complete. That is not this project. This project is over the railroad tracks headed into Northborough.
This is, this is on Northborough Road.
It is.
Can you say this again? It says on Northborough Road over the railroad tracks heading towards Northborough. Okay. Oh, and there's another there's a stream there.
Yeah, I have a locus map on my application. I can certainly show you something if you would like.
I just think, Bill, when this keeps going forward, I think it's really important to highlight the portion of the road that you're talking about because um, Karen went through quite a town meeting on that other stretch, and that was
Sure.
obviously an amount less than 100,000, and you're asking for millions, but this will be
Understood.
helpful, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, so this section of road, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but
we can.
this was where the project was done prior to my starting work here. Um, this project is actually located up in this area. We have a stream crossing, and if you drive by there, you'll see the elevation is largely part of the problem. The actual stream is significantly below grade in this section of Northborough Road. It's probably got about 10 feet of cover anyway, so it's very deep. Um, and this path is not as easy to circumvent as this one, where, they could have bypassed, and I'm sure they did during construction, by going over Route 30 to Johnson Road. This kind of would be a significant detour to get around. It's my understanding that the regional school uses this, the buses use this route to get to the school.
Yeah, suffice to say, it's a critical junction between our two towns, even though I don't think Northborough and Southborough actually really touch in most of those spots, but
Right, right.
Bill, where did you say the photos were of this that
I don't think when
were
I
to?
download the application, I'll have to re-pull it. I don't think when I downloaded it, it downloaded the pictures. It only
Okay.
downloaded the content. So we'll recirculate that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have access to it from home, but so I'll email that out too if everybody would like. Anyways, so moving along.
Just another request, Bill, while we're moving, the sidewalk construction plan that was approved by the town, from a design standpoint. I don't know how easily accessible it is, Jason, to us. It's gotta be somewhere, but could you just send that one to us as well too?
Yep.
Thank you.
I have design plans that I can distribute on that, and I think I did include that as part of the application package.
My apologies. I went through most, but I kind of missed it. So
Yep. Um, the next one, Mike, you're familiar with, provide internet service to the transfer station for AI cameras. In this quote, I've been waiting for a while. So Xerox gave us a quote of 31,000 to do the scope to get the infrastructure, the fiber cable run from the DPW building up to the transfer station building, and also put a few satellites burr lines for remote cameras around the site. So that's that quote. I've asked Jason Montijo to reach out to Xerox to make sure that they included prevailing wage rates in that price.
All right, so maybe I missed something here. So why do we need cameras at the transfer station?
So the issue here is abuse of the facility, and the there is a level of abuse. I'll be frank with you. Okay, we've caught people, we've monitored, we've kicked people out. People have a pattern of accessing the facility without their stickers, without getting stickers. Sometimes they use vehicles that are not permitted to get up there. There's a number of different scenarios.
And there's going to
So,
be a lot of content to review there. So that how will that review occur?
so the AI would have the ability to read the license plates as the vehicles came in, and if somebody was not permitted to go up there with that vehicle, it would send a text or a tickler out to staff so that we could identify the issue.
So that makes sense. But how about other kinds of abuse that are not license plate specific?
Well, that's why we have the remote cameras. So we've had issues where people have disposed of improper materials, and we have a rudimentary system up there now on a local PC. We would like to upgrade that to have it be on a web-based kind of thing, so we can access it from various locations, and it allows us to go back and see who may have left, you know, illegal materials, TV monitors, paint cans, tires, components, various things that we see regularly left up there. And often we can track it back and find out when it happened and who did it. And we do have a lot of it that's resolved. This would improve the quality and accessibility. Right now, it's on a local PC. The operator that up there is the only one that has access to it. We'd like to have this a little broader. If we're going to do the AI thing, it just makes sense to have the other cameras.
Yeah, and so I can understand that. And it's probably another conversation another day in the interest of time, but there's going to be a lot of process behind that then too. But well, I don't know. I'll ask more questions in a different form about that. Thank you very much.
I'm hopeful that just the fact that we do this is going to curtail a lot of the issues.
So that could be as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, stormwater management. This is our annual stormwater MS4 requirement. We had we're new consultant that submitted the proposal for next year's services. We're in the process of, for those of you that don't know, the state and federal government under the Clean Water Act has a series of requirements that every town has to abide by, and every year those requirements change. We're in the cycle now where they just put out some new requirements. It's in the process of being vetted by the communities. Some of the things are going to be objected to. Others are fairly routine. What we're planning on doing is kind of bare minimum to comply, which includes having a better understanding of our drainage system, where it's going, collecting some sample data at some of the outfall locations. If we do find problems with the quality of the water that's coming out of those storm drains, for example, septic effluent, we need to chase that back and find the problem. That's basically what this is all about. It's about cleaning up the stormwater. And if there are non-permitted flows into the stormwater system that are contaminating the water, we are obligated to locate them. So this is the first step in that process.
So, so can you say that again? This is for testing or this is for infrastructure related to testing?
There is a number of requirements, but the jury's still out on the final permit, okay? Um, there's a lot of pushback from a lot of communities about some of the requirements in this permit. For example, they want us to do street sweeping not only in the spring, but also in the fall because leaves are a large nitrogen contributor to stormwater. So they want us to collect the leaves with the street sweepers. People are objecting to that. So that we're not including currently, but because we agree that's unreasonable, it's a little much of an effort for us to go around doing that. I don't think it makes sense either, but until it's a firm requirement, we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we're locating all our infrastructure with GIS. We're getting the structure of catch basins. So, for example, not to bore you about catch basins, when you have a catch basin, you're supposed to have 4 feet of what's called a sump below the outlet pipe. And the purpose of that is it allows solids to settle, and the outlet pipe is supposed to have a hood, so it's an oil water separator basically, so the oils and greases won't go down the pipe. Most of our pipes don't have that setup, whether it's the 4 foot sump, most of them have no sump. They also don't have hoods going out of the structure. So we're kind of quantifying that as part of this next step.
Okay. Uh, I guess my only question about that is that does that count? Does that fall under capital? That sounds more like a Jason, you or Tony, you might have opinions on this, but I don't know. That sounds not traditionally like capital, at least to me.
It's
But
likely not going to be a true capital article, but it is a one-time article,
okay,
right? So we'll work with Mark to decide whether we have to take a position on that. But I think we have had in the past things come before us that we've deemed not part of the capital policy, but then
yeah,
it allows Mark and team to still separately track it for warrant purposes and let them decide how they're going to bring it forward. So,
okay.
um,
I was just curious about that.
yeah.
That came to mind. Thanks.
Yeah, my initial reaction is you're spot on that this will likely not be a capital presentation, but more a one-time article presentation. But we'll keep it on the list until told otherwise.
Yeah, Jason had that same comment last year. Um, Public shade tree inventory and assessment, again, GIS. Um, for those of you that may not know, virtually every road in town is what's called a scenic road. And as that designation requires, um, any tree that gets trimmed, pruned, or cut down has to go through a hearing process, not only with the tree warden, but also with the planning board. So it's a very cumbersome process. And the idea is this is a good tool to get us to make progress on quantifying the problem trees. Um, Interestingly, and I just got this quote today, the 75,000 from Davy Tree. Um, Interestingly, and that's for every tree in town in the right of way. Um, so if we pare that down and do it, on a phased approach, I'm completely open to that. But you know, if you see the video that I sent with this application form, which I submitted today, you'll see a tree actually come down in a storm recently on Pine Hill Road that nearly took out a car passing by. And it's pretty dramatic, so I do encourage you to watch it. But the idea is to identify hazard trees and monitor them as we go forward. Um, so that's that one. Emergency tree work to handle tree and limb removal. This was a warrant article a few years, I think 2017, when it originally went to town meeting for $15,000. We just spent that down, so this is basically the same thing to replenish that account. And we access it during emergency situations to handle limb and tree removal on an emergency basis. So not the routine plan stuff. Now we're into the water section. Um, I did send out Jason a capital plan that we had PAR prepare for us. So specifically in the capital plan, we have a table 3.2 or 3-2 summarizes all the things and lays them out for the next 20 years. So this is this year's request as part of that. So the first item is smart water meters, engineering basically, review different products and prepare an RFP and design for submittal from vendors on this. The idea is so that next year's request right here, we'll be able to move forward with that. Um, Smart meters will have the ability, allow owners to have the ability to quickly identify problems or leaks within their system. It also gives us a notification if we have leaks in our system. One of the sale points of this for me is the fact that we do have an inordinate amount of what's called unaccounted for water. Every year we have to put various consumption categories associated with our water to make sure that we're, number one, operating in a viable way, billing out as much as we can as we are an enterprise fund. We're not operating off the tax base. We have our own separate funds. So it's based on the revenue we receive. We have about a 20% usage that's unaccounted for water. Typically, it's about 10%. So we're significantly over that amount. We do hire outside consultants annually to listen to our water system at every fire hydrant and try to identify areas where we're losing water. Um, that's great, but it's not like having a smart water meter system, which will also help us identify leaks in the system, not just past the meter, but in our water system. And that'll be a network throughout the town that we can more quickly and better identify potential leak areas.
Do you have a sense that if that 20% were brought back down to 10, which was normal, what that would either save or what revenue that would generate if you were able to bill for it?
It would be significant. I'd have to, I can get you that number actually.
Okay, just
Okay.
curious, yeah.
But it is
Oh,
significant. We spend, uh, what, Mark, what do you think? A million on water? We spend significant amount of money on water.
Yeah, that sounds pretty close.
So,
so ballpark that could potentially lead to $100,000 savings or something on that order.
right. So, we've been working on a water loop at Presidential and Fisher Road. You'll see it's $1 million, but this is one of those items that would qualify for the MWRA zero interest loan. The payback period would be 10 years. So that would make this a $100,000 request. I just wanted to put the entire project there. And the looping up in that area would help pressure and water quality. So every time you have a dead end, water doesn't move as well as it does when you have a loop system. It becomes, potentially it becomes stagnant and, the quality isn't as good as you would like.
Is that essentially just taking the pipe that's in the ground and attaching a loop to the end of it?
Correct. The trick here is it goes under a railroad line. So that's where the cost is.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Terra Tank, engineering and permitting for less than full tank rehab. So this is the engineering design. Terra Tank has some maintenance requirements. Let me put it that way. This would allow us to review and prepare a bid package for those maintenance requirements. Filleted Court, water main replacement. This is a small project, $100,000 for both design and construction. Very short road. That's south of Southville Road. You may not even know it exists if you didn't know it was there. It's kind of close to Fitzy's. Various main improvements. This is a standard item that we request when we have breaks and we want to do a better job at repairing these so that we're not chasing the breaks in this particular area. And we have a few hot spots in town. You may or may not be aware. Repeat offenders. So the idea here would be we do a more significant area of repair with that money. Limbrook Road, AC pipe replacement lining. Um, this was last year's request for 1.3 million. And we did get the MWRA loan, so that's why it's 10% of that. So that's 135,000 that will go on for the next 10 years.
So just for clarification purposes, once a project is approved by town meeting, we don't carry it in capital anymore. It goes to the debt schedule, regardless of 0% or 200% interest rate.
Gotcha.
So there, I think what you're telling us on that one is it's already been approved and now it's bonded. So Brian owns that one going
Correct.
forward. Um, and that would be something we would monitor from like this is what capital is going into the town now, but is already approved.
Right.
That makes sense. Okay.
Right. Okay. One of the things that we've been really negligent about is clearing and grubbing our cross-country water main routes. Um, we have a number of water mains that go off the road through the woods or across easements on people's property that have trees that are 12-inch diameter and large trees throughout. So one of the things I want to implement is cutting those trees, grubbing the trees so that if we have an issue with a break, we can get to it and fix it. And this will probably be a multi-year thing until we make some progress on it. Lastly, Atwood tank cleanup. I don't have a dollar amount. This is something that we're currently in the process. At the fall town meeting, funding was approved for the engineers to prepare design plans and specifications for the cleanup. So until that's done, I don't have a dollar amount. And that's it.
Questions on anything water?
Um, so Jason, how does it work with the fact that some of the the water like has its own budget, for its own revenue stream from billing? Like, does that affect how we look at some of these things? Like, what role does that play for us?
The capital policy clearly states that we were supposed to review anything regardless of funding source.
Okay.
And that includes grants too. Like if Bill had some magic grant up his sleeve, right? Like we're still supposed to review it if it's a capital asset the town will own, even
Okay.
if we're not going to pay a penny towards it. Now, I will tell you, the ones that are going to impact the direct tax rate usually get the most scrutiny.
Hmm.
And then there are certainly times when something comes forward on water that because the water rate isn't necessarily set by town meeting, that's set by the select board, we certainly ask questions if any of this is going to change the trajectory of the water rates in some sort of abnormal way outside of normal operations. But I would say we still look at it and we still make a recommendation. Um, I have not seen this committee not support something brought forward that was part of the water capital plan, though. In
Hmm.
the past, doesn't mean it can't happen, though.
Okay.
I don't know if this is a Bill or a Mark question, but in general, we heard a lot about Hopkinton water connection, and then it's been crickets. Is there any of this that is part of that potential project, or is that just something we're not talking about at this point anymore.
Mark, I don't know if you want to address that.
Yeah, I think there's one thing on here, potentially one of the looping items that would have been something for consideration for some capital revenue as part of any deal with an intermunicipal agreement with Hopkinton for an indirect connection to MWRA. Right now, the ball sits in Hopkinton's court. They're continuing to take a look at their options and what they want to do. I'm really not sure what other options they have to provide a, sustainable water source, but there's a all but completed IMA on the table. And it's now up to Hopkinton as to whether they're going to take advantage of it or do something else.
Okay. Other questions for Bill?
Nothing specific from me.
So, Bill, I guess I will leave you with the same request that we've made in the past. Obviously, you acknowledge this up front. There's going to be competing interests. You obviously have a ton on your plate, even if you were the only department in town here. I'm not asking for it tonight, but I assume that you would be able to force rank, especially the top three line items here, right? If the select board and advisory say we can only afford to do one or two, not three of these larger projects, you would have a recommendation of which takes the higher priority, either through life safety or larger benefit to the town or greater portion of the population that benefits, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Bill, just to add to what Jason's saying, what even might help is for your roadway capital improvement, getting, like you said, you had some ones that you're going to cherry pick, low hanging fruit. To that point, maybe there's a smaller subsection that you like that have got to get done by 2020, end of 2027, and then that can help prioritize some of the other pieces of those other bigger line items.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Marcus's hand up.
No,
Oh,
I just had one thing, just to Mike's point that he just brought up. And Bill can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the pavement management system that we have, once we determine a number that we want to spend, I think you can use that number and the system will basically tell you the best way to spend it and on what roads. Yeah, because again, you're looking to try to, as Bill talked about, to get to that higher pavement management number, for the condition of your overall road. So, does that sound accurate, Bill?
it does. The only problem is you do have to take into account the program is somewhat of a black box, and it's going to spit out um, the top needed priorities without consideration for volume of traffic or those types of things. So, you have to take that with a grain of salt and basically, use some common sense when prioritizing.
All right. Any final questions for Bill? Bill, I assume you heard my comments to the police chief before he left in terms of what we'll do if there's any sort of dissent and all of that. I don't need to repeat that.
Nope, you're good.
All right. We greatly appreciate your time. We know
Yeah.
there's a lot that went into this, and I will pull the supplemental attachments that didn't pull down from the application to make sure the committee has those as well. And then I would just, there's a lot here, so I think to the extent that people need more information as we start to have to narrow down some of this, certainly reach out and we'll make sure we get it from Bill.
Super. Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Go see the Pats. See ya.
All right. With that, I'll go to public comment. I'm seeing none. In terms of other business, I just wanted to remind everyone about the email I sent. So next Monday night, there's going to be a joint meeting of the Select Board, Southborough School Committee, capital and advisory related to kind of the ongoing school capital needs. Um, I know Mike Ski said he can be there live. Mike N will be on Zoom.
Yeah.
Tony, when if you can make it, if you can just let me know live or virtual, just that'll help Melanie with some of the seating. And then I think we'll be kind of that discussion, I think, will be very important to where we go with some of these items and look at the broader capital plan. So then the intent would be that we then meet as a capital only committee after that to kind of start to look at the totality of all the requests that we've now heard from each of the department heads and start to make decisions. So that would likely be before the holidays, and then what we would do is present to the select board right after the holidays of where we're at, and then chart our path forward to town meeting from there.
Sounds good.
All right. Any other business for tonight?
Just have one question about process. So we need to start getting together and we're gonna do our own reviews and we'll go line by line, at least 27, 28. Is there a number on that? Because I'm going to line everything up, but there's a lot of numbers, right? So, but realistically, is there a number that we're trying to get to right now, or is it just what are we doing?
Um, we need to line it up first. So I think what we had agreed to early on in the process is you and Mike N had agreed to kind of try to take some of this and work with Brian on the spreadsheet that we had been
Yeah.
maintaining for years. So I think what I'll do is link you all up tomorrow, right, and see when you all can meet either live or Zoom. It's gonna
Sure.
have to just be the two of you plus Brian. It can't be anyone else. And then we'll see our summary. There isn't a magic number. We could certainly tell you what the historical spend has been on capital, but the magic is in what gets bonded and what gets just appropriated straight out. So, for example, there's no way we're just going to pay 3 million and appropriate for the roads. That's going to have to be a bonded item based on past precedent. So then it comes down to Brian as the treasurer deciding what the bond term would be, which will then impact how much is going to hit the tax rate in FY 27 and beyond. And if it's sneaky in the early years because usually you only have an interest payment in the first year or two, so you're not even paying in principal. So the true burden isn't usually felt for a few years. Is the Well, we need to see the how that would run out as well, because then it would impact future ability to bond and other capital projects that would come before us.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
The select board, we've always asked, but they need to see the total picture, and I don't have any insight into where the operation budgets are coming out other than everything's tight. All right, with that, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, second, Mike Ski. Any further discussion? Roll call vote. Mike Ski,
Aye.
Mike N,
All right.
Tony,
Aye.
and I am I as well. Have a good night, everyone.
All right.
Good night, everyone.